So what if I told you that Slice and Dice is actually a viable build? Oh, what does that just say? You've been using Slice and Dice this whole time? Well, so far Slice and Dice has been underperforming compared to Roll the Bones. Trust me, every single guide website that has PvE guides have been saying the same thing for a reason. But there's actually a build that makes Slice and Dice work, and I've been getting so many comments from you guys asking me, hey, can you make Slice and Dice work? Hey, do you think Slice and Dice will work? Most of them have been PvP related. I don't think Slice and Dice can work for PvP, but in a raiding environment, that's a little bit different of a story. If you want to bring Slice and Dice into a mythic environment, mythic dungeons, mythic raids, or just PvE environment of any sort, then this build is going to be what you will need in order to make Slice and Dice perform well. This video isn't BS, this video is not a scam, this video is legit. Now this video is going to be pretty long. This video is going to showcase you Slice and Dice. It has footage in the background for you guys to enjoy. The footage is of me running the specific Slice and Dice build with the theory crafting that is presented in this video applied into dungeons. I do understand that in dungeons you get 15% more damage and overall effectiveness, but everybody else in the group has the same effectiveness. So I guess all you can really take a look at is my AoE damage compared to other classes, the buffs that I have and cooldowns that I have for certain fights, and how am I comparing with others, as you will need specific, very specific builds, very specific items in order to make this build work. So just letting you know that ahead of time. In order to actually figure out how Slice and Dice works and if it works for anybody else, I went to parsing. I went to WoW logs to see other players, other Outlaw Rogues running different builds to see just how well they perform themselves. I wanted to see what kind of builds they're running, whether they're running Slice and Dice or Roll the Bones. As you can imagine, Roll the Bones was dominating the market, but there were a few builds for Slice and Dice. First of all, I had to calculate around the average item level, and I just took my own item level, which at the time was about 889. It increased a little bit since a few drops from a few bosses from Nighthold, which made me super happy. So at the time it was 889, so you could change the item level on WoW logs. I decided to go item levels between 889, 888, 887 to find other rogues within my item level. Then I took a look at everybody who is running Slice and Dice and what kind of talent combinations they have in order to figure out the proper build in order to make Slice and Dice work. I also looked at their gear because I'm pretty sure that some of the trinkets, maybe some of the legendaries that they were using were helping the Slice and Dice build work. And one of the things that I noticed is everybody is running the same trinket. And when you think about it, I guess it kind of just makes sense. The Knight Blooding Frond is the trinket that I think you will need if you want to make Slice and Dice work. This trinket particularly works with your auto attacks. Once it triggers, it will increase in stacks, and every single stack will allow your auto attacks to deal more damage. With Slice and Dice giving you 100% attack speed increase, you have a lot more auto attacks going out, and with every single auto attack, the damage from Knight Blooding Frond increases. So you're able to have a lot of abilities, a lot of just auto attacks back to back to back to back with increasing intensity. So if you are able to at any point line up any kind of burst with Knight Blooding Frond up, then that's really where it's going to allow Outlaw Rogues to shine in terms of Slice and Dice build. And that's one of the things I feel like you will need. I think that is the only item you technically need if you want to make Slice and Dice competitive. The reason you need this item is because Slice and Dice generally deals less damage than Roll the Bones. What's good about Slice and Dice is it is kind of difficult to fall behind on it, but it's also difficult to catch back up. And that's advantage and a disadvantage for Slice and Dice. Because it is difficult for you to fall behind, then as soon as you can get a ton of damage on the enemy, your average DPS will decrease very, very, very slowly over time. But it won't be as drastic as, let's say, Roll the Bones. As soon as you roll a bad buff, bam, your DPS is below 500k. You roll good buffs, bam, your DPS is above 500k. So you get a little bit of an up and down when it comes to playing with Roll the Bones. With Slice and Dice, you are consistent, and in most cases, it's an ability that's consistently mediocre or bad. So that's where where the issue lies in terms of using Slice and Dice. But if you get this trinket, then you allow your auto attacks to deal a little bit more damage, which allows you a little bit more DPS when it comes to AoE, and definitely a lot more DPS when it comes to output for single target, which is kind of where this build really does benefit from, is the single target aspect of it. And it also fairly well synergizes with mastery, but mainly it's for the damage increase that you are, I feel like, gonna need. Second thing, itemization, legendaries. I'm pretty sure by now, if you're somebody who is playing the game regularly, you might have gotten a legendary or two. So the question is, which one of these legendaries will allow you to deal the most amount of damage? Good thing is there isn't a specific legendary that allows you to deal more damage with auto attacks, thank God. But there are a few legendaries which will definitely allow you to deal more damage in general, so I guess this is more of a generalized statement when it comes to Outlaw Rogues. There is one legendary that works so well with the Night-Blooding Frond though, that I feel like if you get it, then you are basically in shoe-in, and I was so lucky to get the legendary Mantle of Master Assassin, which allows you to combo some of the strongest Outlaw Rogue single target or AoE cleave DPS ever. And with Slice and Dice and with Night-Blooding Frond, with 100% critical strike when you come out of stealth with Master of Assassin, on a Vanish with all of your cooldowns popped and Night-Blooding Frond up, you can deal basically 1 million burst DPS without any of the extra benefits. You don't need any flasks, you don't need any potions, but imagine the damage with flasks and potions. So technically as an Outlaw you can get so far ahead, and because with Slice and Dice it is difficult to fall behind, your DPS decrease over time won't be as drastic. It will be, you know, it will go down eventually, but as long as you stay on the target and as long as you don't AFK or simply just stop using your abilities, then you will basically be dropping, but very, very, very slowly. So then for the most part you can stay ahead in terms of just the amount of damage that you're able to deal on an enemy, and once your cooldowns are back up and running, then in most cases you're able to line up some kind of a burst again on the enemy, catch back up whenever you need it, and if you're able to, then use Mantle of Master Assassin with those vanishes in order to vanish on the enemy, have a bunch of crit again, and you know, catch back up. So Mantle of Master Assassin kind of allows you a little bit more room for the catch up mechanic. So you know, it's really difficult to catch back up with Slice and Dice. Mantle of Master Assassin helps a ton with it. The other legendary is Insignia or Ravenhold, which is a great flat DPS increase for all rogue specs, and one of the things that you'll be doing with this build, since you do have a little bit extra energy at all times, you'll be using a bit more Slice and Dice here and there, just a little bit more than your average Roll the Bones build. So Ravenhold definitely helps a ton. Another legendary that's I guess one of the better ones on the list, but I consider it not as good, is Greenskin's Waterlogged Wrist Cuffs. It's a DPS increase because it allows you for more damage with your Blunderbuss whenever Blunderbuss is available, and if you're able to line up for Blunderbuss in particular. But the reason I don't think it is as good is because you don't have the Roll the Bones for the cooldown reduction, so you're not able to use it as often. It's helpful and beneficial, but it's not as beneficial as often, because with Roll the Bones, if you get a cooldown reduction, you're able to use the ability a lot more often, you're able to spam it, you're able to in some ways control it a little more if you're able to, you know, follow up with the cooldown reduction and finishers and everything else required. But it's just not as much of a direct DPS increase as the first two. But how badly do you need legendaries in general? They are a DPS increase, an obvious DPS increase, but for the most part, I feel like if you can get at least one of those, even Ravenhold Insignia, Greenskin Waterlogged Wrist Cuffs, or Mantle of the Master Assassin, then it will definitely help solidify Slice and Dice. Otherwise, it might feel like a gimmick. So the question is now, what is the best actual build for talents? Which talents should you run in order to maximize the damage with Slice and Dice? We have Ghosted Strike, we have Acrobatic Strikes, we have Deepest Stratagem, Cheat Death, Prey on the Weak, Alacrity, and Slice and Dice. Ghosted Strike allows your auto attacks to basically deal 10% more DPS. I tried with Quick Draw, and Quick Draw should be used with the Waterlogged Wrist Cuffs legendary. Swordmaster is a decent option for some AoE parts, but Ghosted Strike is usually the best DPS increase, as it allows you 10% more damage from your Saber Slashes, Pistol Shots, Run-Throughs, and especially the many auto attacks that you'll be using. Acrobatic Strikes and Grappling Hook, I guess, are not a terrible option either. Just I like Acrobatic Strikes because you can stay in melee combat while being able to cleverly maneuver your way around enemies, so you don't stand in AoEs, you don't stand in any cleaves, while continuing to deal as much DPS as possible. At level 45, for the most part, single target DPS, Deepest Stratagem is the better option. With heavy AoE, like Scorpion Fight, Vigor is a better option because you get a lot more Saber Slashes up, which means more damage, which just means more mastery hits, which means more auto attacks, which means a lot of energy just to get them used back to back to back. Overall, it ends up being more damage. But for single target, Deepest Stratagem is almost necessary for the massive burst that you can put out in the opener. Because with this build, you basically kind of want to burst the enemy, get ahead, and then stay ahead for as long as possible until your cooldowns are back up. Once all of your cooldowns back up, get ahead, stay ahead, and just keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over. So Deeper Stratagem ends up being the better option. You can play with Vigor, but you're gonna need every little bit of help when it comes to Slice and Dice. Otherwise, you're gonna fall too far behind. Pray on the Wake is good. I mean, you can always go Dirty Tricks, but Pray on the Wake allows you to maybe use your stun in an opener on certain ads that come out, or vanish cheap shot specific ads. Even though if you are rolling the legendary shoulder pads, then you basically will start using your vanish for offensive pressure, so then maybe Dirty Tricks might not be a terrible option from there on out. At level 90, Alacrity is the only option that is probably the best. Because of Alacrity stacking, Slice and Dice is a little bit more rampy. It's a little bit slower because once you get the 20% haste, with Slice and Dice up, it helps a ton more. Killing Spree and Cannibal Barrage are alright options, but none of them are really that great in terms of like massively helping out in terms of cleave or even AoE. And lastly, for level 100, we have Slice and Dice, which is, as said, this is the ability that you are trying to make work as best as possible. So with this build, you're trying to maintain Ghostly Strike. You're trying to maintain your Slice and Dice the whole time. And it's all about making your burst as explosive as possible in the opener. Because I have the legendary for the shoulder pads, which allows me 100% crit during Vanish, I basically get my Ghostly Strike up, I build up the combo points in the opener, build up that Slice and Dice, have it running. I wait for my Night Bloom Frond to proc, and then I pop all my cooldowns. I pop a Adrenaline Rush, Artifact Weapon, I Vanish, and I continue Saber Slash run through, Saber Slash run through. So my auto attacks are critting, my Saber Slashes are critting, my run throughs are critting back to back to back. And you kind of just want to keep doing this as much of explosive damage in the opener. Get ahead, and then from there on, it's really simple, easy road. Maintain Ghostly Strike, maintain Sabers, maintain Slice and Dice, keep Saber Slashing. Once you build up between 4 or 5 combo points, use run through them. And one of the things that I see on the comments, I see it in forums, I see it everywhere when it comes to Deeper Stratagem, is people making the argument that I personally or other rogues don't use all full 6 Deeper Stratagem combo points. It is actually better to use either 5 or 6, because if you have 5 combo points and you use a Saber Slash and then it gets a Saber Slash proc, then you end up wasting the combo points, you end up wasting Saber Slash in a way. With Deeper Stratagem, it's better because this way you don't waste any combo points. So if you have 5 combo points and you have a run through ready and you're thinking maybe I can get a little bit extra squeeze out of it, unless you have a proc for a pistol shot, then you should just use run through at 5 combo points. 5 or 6 is fine. You won't notice a huge DPS difference in most cases. Otherwise, this is everything I have in terms of Slice and Dice. Now the question, how does it compare with Roll the Bones and with the original Outlaw run? And when I tried it out multiple times, and when I say multiple, I actually mean multiple. Many times with Outlaw Rogue, I had such varying numbers, I was almost wanted to go back to Slice and Dice again, because I'm so used to Outlaw Rogue and in the original Roll the Bones. I'm used to rolling for bones all the time. We're used to rolling for buffs all the time, just trying to get the best kind of lineups possible. And the damage decrease and increase is definitely more fluid. It just as in it goes up and down with Roll the Bones. Sometimes you'll be under 500k DPS. Sometimes you'll be over 500k DPS. Sometimes in mere seconds you can dip down into even 300s, and sometimes in just a good lineup for procs and good Roll the Bones roll, you can be doing consistently several 100k DPS. But because of this like fluctuation up and down, that's what a lot of people don't like about Outlaw Rogue. They don't like the RNG, they don't like the fact that their DPS fluctuates, and Slice and Dice does allow you to cushion the blow, as your DPS is going to fluctuate but at a more steady rate that a lot of people are used to. If let's say you played Combat Rogue in the past and your DPS never really scaled like really up and really down, really up and really down, unless a bunch of ads came into the fight, then yeah, it's gonna go kind of back to it. But this build does require you to be a little bit more cautious. It does require you to put a little bit extra effort. It is not an easy build, but if you really want to make Slice and Dice work, then this is probably the best way of going about it. Again, one of the things that I'm not happy about is the fact that you need specific items, because it would be much easier if you just didn't need specific items. But Slice and Dice objectively deals less damage than Roll the Bones, because Roll the Bones has a chance to give you more damage, a hell of a lot more, especially if you get 6 buffs. But if you get 2 or 3 buffs, you're pulling ahead. If you get 1 buff back to back way too often, you're gonna dip in DPS, but you have a chance to bring it back up. So with Outlaw going up and down, the average for Roll the Bones is better than Slice and Dice. But with this specific build, you actually make Slice and Dice a better option. And it really does require, for the most part, one trinket, which is not even a legendary. But if you have any other legendaries on top of it that have a DPS increasing component, then it definitely helps you out tremendously. So this is everything I have for you guys in terms of Slice and Dice and my research and everything. I decided to put everything into this video in terms of giving you guys some proof of my validity of the build, just some numbers for you guys to take a look at and check out, just some comparisons between one and the other. And Slice and Dice is actually something I'm very excited to test out tonight. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you think about Slice and Dice, and maybe if you want to give it a test yourself, let me know what you thought about it. Just go jump into a dungeon. Maybe just jump into LFR right now. Maybe you'll be able to kill botanists right then and there. Use the Slice and Dice, and then maybe you'll just be able to get your trinket right about now. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see all of you in the next video.